What's up, guys? Logan here, and I am back with another episode of Product Prodigy. Now, this isn't my typical room that I record in. My family and I have just taken a little drive down to the beach this weekend to have a little Mother's Day weekend trip. My girlfriend's here as well, and we're having a good time, relaxing, and it's been really nice just to get away from home for a while. Just been stuck in the same room for 5 weeks, so it's been really nice, been really enjoying it. So anyways, this is the final episode of Season 3 for Product Prodigy. I'm going to be just taking a couple weeks off to just do some rebranding and see where my channel is headed with all of this. And yeah, so basically, I just wanted to give a full overall review of GCU. As of April 24th, just this past month, I am officially a graduate of GCU. I got my bachelor's in communications with a minor in sports marketing, and I'm actually going to be moving to Phoenix pretty soon as well. I got an opportunity to do some video editing for a news team up there, so I'm excited to finally have some work and get started on my career. Yeah, so probably starting in June, I will be moving back to Phoenix, and that's where I'll be living. So anyways, I've done a couple reviews before of GCU and dorm tours and stuff like that, but I just kind of wanted to cover almost all grounds of the school and everything involved in it, so I can just kind of answer everyone's questions about the school. And if you have any questions that I didn't answer, just ask them down in the comments below, and I will try my best to give the best answers to these questions. So let's start with number one. So affordability. The affordability of the school, I believe, is amazing for it being a private school. So many private schools are so expensive, $40,000 plus a year, and this one was much cheaper, and they give great opportunities for scholarships. So after all my scholarships and stuff, I believe I owed maybe around $12,000 a year, which is not bad at all for a private school. I got most of it paid off, but I took some loans out, so by the end of this year, I want to pay it all back, and I only owe around $7,500, I believe. So that's not that bad, considering some students go hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt. I'm so happy I'm not in that boat. So second is the classes. The classes can be kind of hit or miss, so it just kind of honestly depends on what professors you get. Some really love their job and really love to teach and teach you really well. Some can be boring and kind of monotoned, and some kind of just don't want to be there at all. For the most part, I believe I had really good teachers. I'd say around 80% of the time I probably had teachers that I did like. Some were hard, some were easy. You honestly just have to kind of talk to students in your major, ask them about teachers, which ones you should take, which ones you shouldn't. You could go on Rate My Professor, I believe that's what the website is called, because some of our teachers are rated on there as well, and that's just kind of how you figure out what classes you want to be in. Overall, I liked the classes. Some I didn't like, but I liked most of them. Third thing I wanted to talk about is the city of Phoenix. So this doesn't relate to the school, but the city around the school. So our school is located in one of the most rundown parts of the city. It's in smack dab central Phoenix, and it's honestly really not a great area, but our school is gated off, has a lot of security, so you feel safe on campus. But anything close to our campus doesn't feel too safe or anything like that, so it's not that great. But I do love Phoenix overall because of all the opportunity and everything that's around Phoenix. There's fun things to do in Scottsdale, downtown Phoenix, and there's many other cities around us as well. I sometimes call Phoenix the LA of Arizona because it's a big city and it has many other small cities around it, and there's lots of opportunities, especially for me in sports. There's every single sport you can think of there. There's football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey. There's professional and minor league. Baseball teams come there for spring training during the spring, and I had a job with the Brewers for that as well, and it's just has so many amazing opportunities for both me and my girlfriend, and that's why we navigated back to Phoenix even with all of this pandemic going on. So the fourth thing is the weather. The weather is either really good or really terrible. During the summer, it gets hot, and if you hate the heat, you probably don't really want to be there. I hate the heat, but I'm used to it. Where I live in California, it can get 115 plus in the summers, so it gets around there. In Phoenix, it can get up to 120, so I'm kind of used to it. But if you can fight past late October, November-ish, that's when it starts cooling down, and the winters and springs are really nice in Phoenix, and there's almost no complaints when it comes to the winter or spring. So I'd say late October through maybe early May is like the best time to be in Arizona. Alright, so next I'm going to talk about the layout and the design of the campus. So the layout, there's some parts that are nice about it, and there's some parts that are terrible. And the worst thing that I do not like about the campus is the location of the parking garages. For some of the dorms and apartments, the parking garages are very close, but for the ones that I lived in, it felt like a half a mile away, and it was not very convenient when you had places to be in. You had to walk 5, 10, 15 minutes to get to your car. It was convenient to have a skateboard, although my skateboard was broken at times, so I did have to walk many times to my parking garage as well. So especially in the heat, it was not fun being that far from the parking garages. I believe they should have made the layout more like a dorm, parking garage, dorm, parking garage, but it's more like dorm, 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 parking garage, parking garage, parking garage, kind of like that. So I believe they could have just laid out the parking garages a little better, but other than that, everything else around the campus is pretty nicely laid out. So I don't have really any complaints about the location of like the classes or anything like that. I'm sorry if you hear the birds squawking, they're like flying right over me. I believe we have a beautiful campus at GCU. I love the colors, the designs of the buildings. It's just such an aesthetically pleasing school, and it gets better and better every day. Literally every day they're working on building and renovating something, and I just loved the design of the school. There was nothing really ugly to me about the school or anything like that. I loved every bit of that part. Okay, next I will talk about the events. So we have some pretty amazing events at the school. We have a really good event team that puts together some of the coolest events there, and people go pretty crazy for a lot of them. My senior year, I was kind of about the events. I did go to some, but I really was just focused on trying to build my career in volunteering, internships, and jobs, going to my club events, like my sports business club I was in, and just working on schoolwork and hanging out with my friends and my girlfriend. So I didn't go to a whole lot of events my senior year, but I would suggest to go to as many events as you possibly can, because I think you'd regret it if you didn't. And they're just so much fun. Highly suggest the events. I think they do a pretty good job with that. Okay, next thing is the sports. So the big unfortunate circumstance of our school is that we do not have a football team. If I did continue to play football, of course, GCU would not be an option for me. And that's a big bummer, because I am a huge fan of college football. I love professional and college football, so it would have been really cool to see a football team, but our school does go crazy for our basketball team. Our basketball team was horrible this year, but they typically have a pretty good team, and we have probably one of the number one student sections when it comes to college basketball, and some big D1 basketball teams have came and played us, and they've said that like we're one of the craziest student sections. So if you're someone that's into that, someone who a school that has amazing school spirit and really gets into their sporting events, GCU is a good place to be. If you really want that college football experience, you could come to GCU and just go to the ASU games, or you just pick a school that has a football team, of course. But other than that, we have most sports you can think of, because we not only have the NCAA Division I sports, but we also have club sports, which makes a bigger variety of sports, and then we even have intramural sports where you just kind of sign up with a group of people, and I think you either play with other GCU students, and I think you also play with some other schools, I'm not sure, but it's kind of a less competitive, more fun type of situation, and there's so many sports you can think of, even stuff like spike ball and flag football and stuff like that, and rugby. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the sports. Next thing I will talk about is the community of the school. I kind of covered that with the school spirit of the sports, how much they get into their events. So I kind of did cover the community, but I will say that this is one of the best communities I think I could have been with. I've mentioned this before, but when I toured GCU, it was the only school that students kind of made me feel at home. All the other schools I toured, I just kind of felt alone and lost, whereas when I toured GCU, I always knew where I was supposed to be going. Everyone was super friendly, and that's just a part of the spirit of GCU. Okay, next up, some people probably don't care about this, but I'll talk about the Christianity implementation, because that is important to some people. They do implement their Christianity beliefs in many aspects of the school. Like the teachers will pray, they'll talk about the Bible. There's a chapel, but it isn't mandatory. It is mandatory for RAs if you choose to be an RA, but if you're just a student, it's not mandatory for you. So I know there are some colleges that make chapel mandatory, so that's kind of nice if you don't really want to go to chapels. I had a church that I went to that I liked more than the chapel, so I would just attend church and not go to my school's chapel. But if that's something you're into, that's definitely an option there. We have many type of biblical majors, or Christianity majors, theological majors. I don't know what you call them, but we have a lot of majors like that, and people are big on that there. So Christianity is implemented a lot, but it's not really forced onto you. They accept people of any belief there. And that kind of brings me on to the rules of the school. So there are, of course, rules that are going to be involved in your housing and anything like that. I want to say there's some smoking spots on campus, but I'm not really sure. But I think for the most part, they don't allow smoking on campus. It's a dry campus. There is no alcohol allowed. And I'll talk about the rules of the housing. So you can have people of the opposite sex in your dorm room, but it's so with the dorms, there's a common room and then bedrooms. You can't have people of the opposite sex in your bedrooms, just the common room, and you do have to have your dorm room open when you have someone of the opposite sex in there. And you have the RAs that kind of enforce those rules. And we have dorms and apartments, and the dorms are a little more strict on those rules. I think it's just because in dorms it's kind of mainly freshmen and sophomores, whereas the apartments are more of the older students, like juniors and seniors. The apartments still do have RAs, but they're not as strict on you about these rules, even though it is still technically a rule for us. The only rule that we didn't have in the apartment was that we didn't have to have our dorm room door open when we have someone of the opposite sex in there. But of course, they technically still weren't allowed in the bedrooms. We couldn't have alcohol. We did have a curfew. People of the opposite gender had to be out of your room by midnight. and I think that was every day. So yeah, of course there's a much more detailed list of rules, but that's kind of like the basic ones I can think of right now. Okay, next up I'll talk about the clubs. There is almost honestly any kind of club you can think of there, and if there's a specific club that you want to be in that they don't have, you can pretty much make it on your own and build a community around that club. I was involved in the sports business club, and the amount of opportunity that club gained for me and for jobs and internships, volunteer opportunities just to grow my career was phenomenal, and I am so happy I joined that club because I would have just been going to classes and not really knowing what to do to grow my career. So I really suggest that you get into a club in a career field that you want to be in. Like my girlfriend wants to work in marketing, and she joined the marketing club. I believe she was the VP of it. I want to say that was her position. That helped her a lot as well, gave some opportunities. So don't just go to class, join some clubs. Alright, so next up I'll talk about the housing, and I'll talk about the food. So the housing, like I've said, we have dorms and apartments. There are so many different housing options there, and they're pretty amazing. Even the dorms where you have to share a bedroom with 2 or 3 people. Even then, I feel like the space you get is much greater than some other colleges. I feel like they're much bigger and nicer than places like UCLA or big college schools like that. So I don't really have a lot of complaints about the housing. I really enjoyed being there, especially the apartment I was in. I loved the apartment I was in. I did have a pool right outside my door where people would get kind of loud, but it was kind of nice because the pool had a curfew of 10 p.m., so after 10 p.m. it would quiet down. So yeah, not too many complaints about the housing. Beds were a little small because they were twin, but not really terrible. I was still able to sleep fine. Maintenance was pretty good about getting to your dorm and fixing stuff. You would have to put a request in on a website. And yeah, not too many complaints other than like you have to unlock and open a door to get into a complex, and then unlock and open a door to get into the hall, and then unlock and open a door to get to your bedroom. And if your hands are full, that's a little difficult to do, but it wasn't anything to really complain about. I enjoyed most aspects of the housing. But I suggest you try to sign up for your housing the second they open up the housing applications, because most of the apartments and stuff are high in demand, and if you don't sign up quick, you'll get stuck somewhere where you don't really want to be. Okay, and now I'll talk about the food. So the food options were pretty good, but they kind of get old after a while because we didn't really have like a cafeteria style food place. Like we did have one tiny one that made like one different meal a night, and so it didn't create a ton of variety, because outside of that we just kind of had fast food, and I like to stay healthy, and I don't like to eat fast food every single night. We did have some little grocery stores that provided like some groceries and stuff, so for the most part I kind of made my meals in my apartment. If you're someone that can't really cook, or you're stuck in the dorm that doesn't really have a kitchen, you kind of have to just deal with it and go to these fast food places and little grocery marts and the cafeteria place. But I know some big colleges that have some amazing cafeteria style foods of like just so many different varieties, and I believe that's something that GCU really needs over just a bunch of fast food places. So the kinds of fast food places we had were good, but it's just not something I really wanted to eat every single day, and that is why I just cooked most of the time. Okay, almost done here. So I'm going to talk about the safety of the campus. So most of the time on the campus, I felt pretty safe. We have a public safety and a GCU police going around the campus 24/7, and we have gates with guards at every single entrance of the school, so I never really felt unsafe on campus. I always felt like we had the school pretty secure, even with the school being in a very unsafe area. Our whole campus is gated off, and with the public safety, it always felt pretty safe. So if you're worried about being safe, that's not something that you should really worry about at this school, as long as you stay in the campus and don't really go anywhere kind of right outside the campus. If you do want to do fun stuff outside of campus, go to like Scottsdale or downtown Phoenix or other places that aren't near the campus. Okay, the last topic I'm going to be talking about is the popular majors that are kind of on our campus. This is just kind of from what I've seen. There could be other popular majors that I just haven't heard about on our campus, but the top ones that I mainly heard about on our campus, the first one that I heard about a lot was nursing, and I believe we do have a pretty good nursing program on campus. So if you're nursing, I suggest you do look into GCU. I just heard about it a lot, and I heard many good things. I didn't experience it myself, so I can't tell you for sure if it's an amazing opportunity for you if you want to go into nursing, but I just heard good things about it, and it's pretty popular at our school. So the next one was all the like business majors. So we do have this nice College of Business building with a pretty great staff in there, so I do suggest business. That's a popular major. And lastly, I know this last one is a little biased, but communications. I just say that because I was able to experience it and see how many people were communications majors, how popular the major was. I'm not honestly necessarily probably going to be using that major in my career a whole lot. I can't say for sure about that. If I continue doing media type stuff like video creating and stuff like that, then communications isn't necessarily going to be implemented, but I believe it was a great opportunity for me to grow in my public speaking and all different aspects of communication towards people. And even my YouTube channel, I've been able to talk in front of the camera more easily and stuff like that. So yeah, that is my broad overview of GCU, and that is my final episode of season 3. And wow, it sure has been a journey with this pandemic, and I did not believe I would be finishing off the season like this, but here we are. You never know what's going to happen in life. So yeah, just going to take a little break from YouTube, and I'll be back in a few weeks. And that is all I have for you guys today. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel. I will see you next time on Product Prodigy. Peace.